Close to 7,000 households were affected across the Eastern Cape as a result of the June 10th floods that occurred in Mthatha. Over 4,000 people have also been displaced. 20 days later, some are still raising complaints about the absence of disaster relief that was supposed to be provided to them by the local government. They claim basic services like electricity and water are among other services that have not been restored. And it's despite the government stating that plans were underway for assistance. Newzroom Afrika's Liyema Vumisa is keeping an eye on the story for us and joins us now. Liyema, good morning. I mean, we dealt with quite extensively last week the burials and the grieving the local community still continues to face and endure. The lack of services, promised services, must certainly add insult to injury. Talk to us about the impact of not having things like water and electricity.
Indeed, Iman. Well, 5.1 billion rands is the estimated cost of the infrastructure that the government, especially particularly the Eastern Cape government, is stating that they will require. Currently, they do not have those funds, and they've since asked for the intervention then from a national government. It's quite interesting, Iman, that you mentioned the funerals that we were covering just last week, and right now the juxtaposition then to that is the lack of basic services that these flood victims are lamenting about. Now, what we do know currently is that the local government right in the Eastern Cape has since, alluded to the fact that they are having plans in place. And matter of fact, they have even provided temporary shelters to the flood victims in some of the community halls that we have been covering and really, reporting from. But apart from that, the residents and really the victims of the floods are claiming that that's just only a temporal measure, because after all of this that has happened, 20 days later, as you mentioned there in your intro, they still need to rebuild their lives. And thus then they require, sort of substantive and really substance, reports from the government. The government, on the other hand, mentioning that, yes, they do not have the appropriate funds, but of course they have plans in place to try and get those funds. I just want to paint you a picture then, because among some of those things that these flood victims are lamenting about is the houses that they ought to be given by the government as a result of having been displaced because of the extensive damage that has been caused to the houses that they were previously occupying, of course, on those riverbanks. Now, I am in such one house. Now, I want to show you the extent of the damage here. If you can see, the inside of this house, Iman, is full of mud. Now, people were residing here and they've since been relocated elsewhere. Something else that we do know is that two people who were inside this very same house have since passed away as a result of those floods. Now, I don't know if my colleague is going to be able then to show you the length of the water, or rather the height of the water, is just about my height. That's the extent then of how damaged this house was. As you can see, that's how high the water was. And if you can see inside, Iman, you will notice that there's still quite a number of furniture for these occupants who were living inside this property. Like I mentioned, two of them have since passed away. We do understand then that they are from, or rather, it's a 42-year-old and a 2-year-old child that have passed away. I mean, look at that. There's also fridges in here that are not even able to be retrieved because the family of the people who were living here have since, passed away as well. Now, the remaining person that is the father then, or shall we say the household figure that was residing here as well, who of course was not here at the time of the incident, mentioning to us there that they were now placed at a temporal shelter in one of the community centers right here in Dikolini, that's in Mthatha. But of course mentioning that as far as the long term is concerned and whether or not they're going to get any property where they can rebuild their lives, they do not have that guarantee. On the other hand, the government says, in fact, the local municipality here, King Sabata Taringeb, also saying that they've acquired land in the Mnuma and also in the Or Tambo districts. They've also been budget deployed to assist in that. But when we talked to some of the residents earlier this morning, they were mentioning to us that they've just only been placed in temporal housing shelters, the B&Bs around town here, and also in some of the community halls. No conversation whatsoever about the longer term and really what happens after that. We do understand MEC Zolile Williams, Cocta MEC in the province, mentioned that they're just going to be placed temporarily in these shelters and in these community centers for just only 30 days. Now it's 20 days later, 10 days to go, and the question then remains, after that period has lapsed, will the government in fact keep on its promises as far as getting them permanent housing, that is, in the land that they as government have said they have set aside to be able to build houses for these people? So in the next crossings, Iman, we're going to hear some more grievances really of the aftermath of these flood victims and whether or not are they satisfied with the intervention of local government here and even the local municipalities, and really some of those basic services that they claim are still pending and they're still yet to receive them, which of course would have been interrupted by those recent Mthatha floods.
Liyema, and we'll keep an eye on, again, holding those who've made those promises to the local and affected communities accountable.